And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel. Today we're taking a look at Carthago. This is a game from Capstone Games. Now Capstone Games is known for making fairly hefty Euro-style games that are in-depth. Sometimes I like them, sometimes I don't, but I was assured that I would like this one because this one was a lighter game. Lighter in this sense being 60 to 90 minutes. But it's a board game about, well, what is it about? Oh, you're Phoenicians and trading. Yeah, it's a typical trading in the Mediterranean style game where you'll be trading goods back and forth. Not really trading goods. You are taking actions and trying to get guild seats and become a very successful merchant by playing cards. I'm trying to think of a way to condense this into a quick thing. Let's just take a look at how it plays. So here's the setup for the game, and you're going to see the shipyard up here, which can shrink or can, get longer depending on how many players are in the game. A market, a spot over here. These are different endgame goal tiles, which could be different from game to game. And then this is a player board. You'll notice that there's discs on the player board. You'll start with a couple extra ones here. You'll also get to pull one off at the beginning and stick it up there in one of the harbors. Now, point scoring, we should talk about that. At the end of the game, you're going to get points for uncovered discs if you pull them off your board for some of the columns. Also, if you have a complete column emptied, it counts as a guild seat. Players are going to be able to also be putting discs on here. They have a certain cost, and here you can put as many as you want for 12. Those also count as guild seats, and you're going to score your number of guild seats that you have times the number of ships that you have gotten at the end of the game for your score. You're also going to get points if you get a disc on one of these. These each have a cost. The first person to do it's going to get it for the cheapest part. Like for example, here you get 3 points for each one of these that you have, and you can get a maximum of 12 points. And so those are going to score you. The game comes with a score pad to keep track of scores. Here's an example game: 40 to 38, 29 to 48. Hey, look who won. And so that's what you're trying to do. Now, how do you do that? Each player is going to start with a hand of 7 basic action cards. They're all the same for each player, as well as 3 good cards. Good cards have one of the 5 different actions on them, as well as have a certain amount of money that they're worth, and then they're one of the different types of goods that are in the game. So there's different combinations of these. The game is going to take place over 3 epochs, and each of those is going to be 5 turns. So you're going to play a card on your turn. You're going to play a card for the action. So let's say I pick this action here. I'm going to place that card here and then take this big token and put it on that action on the board. So I'd put it here. If there's already discs on that one, that's fine, but I have to play extra cards to the right down here of my board. So that can actually deplete your hands. You have to be careful about that. You can even use one of these as the action that's on it, but then you won't be able to use it as a trading good or for money or whatever you have. But those do give you more options to be able to do the same action multiple times. So what do the different actions do? Well, the first one is about the market here. When you go to the market, I can simply take one of these cards here. I also can trade a card from my hand with one of the cards here too, and add this to my hand if I so desire. So it's a way to get more goods. Another action can be sending one of your discs up here, either to the regular harbor or to the war harbor. And there's only a certain amount of spots that you can have. And then another action is going to let you do this action for this harbor, the trade harbor one time, and then you can do the war harbor one time. For the trade harbor, it's very simple. You look at the ship that you're trying to get, for example, this ship here, and you discard a good that matches the good shown on the ship. You then are going to get this ship, which you can use as a special ability here. So this one's going to let me move ships on the thing. Every time you use a ship for its special ability, you're going to flip it over, and you get to unflip it whenever you take the trade action here and get the different goods that are available there. Also, when you get a ship, though, you're going to get a bunch of other goods. So the example, this one says 7 on it. So I will draw cards from the trade deck until I get over 7. So this one's 5 and 5, 10. Boom. I got 7 or more, so these get added to my hand. A warship is done very similar when you go to the War Harbor, except you turn over the top card here, you look at the attack, and then you'll look at your attack on the board, and you need to equal or exceed that attack to be able to fight it. So everyone starts with 1 attack. You might start with 3 and then 5. And there's even some ships that have 6, and there's also ships that will give you bonuses to your attack and things like that. But if you don't beat the ship, well, too bad you don't get any goods. If you do, again, you get to keep the ship and then draw goods equal to or higher than the number here. Also, whenever you attack a ship, whether you succeed or fail, you get to put a disc on one of these bonus tiles here, paying the cost with the coins amounts from your hand. Then there's the residence action. When you take that action, you'll be able to pay a certain amount of goods. So here, 3 of one of these 3 types, here 2 of one of these types, or here 2 of one of these types to take a disc off. Not only does that give you more discs to work with to put out on the board, but it's also going to possibly give you more points or free up a column or increase your military strength, etc. Now you'll notice that on this board, as you're taking these actions, some of the spots have these tokens in them. When you take an action at that spot, you get to also take a guild action. And then if you do so, this will move to the next clockwise position. Guild actions are important because they're how you score points. For a guild action, you can pay the cost here with goods from your hand and put down one of your tokens here, which is going to kind of keep that token out of your hand for the rest of the game. But, again, remember at the end of the game, you're going to be multiplying these times the number of ships you have. Or you can pay and place a disc on the current epoch that you're at to get whatever those bonus points are worth at the end of the game. And that's how you play. Now, between epochs, you're going to be getting some more cards, and some of the ships will be moved around. There's some cleaning up. You'll draw some cards, and so on. And there's a bunch of symbols here to show what happens between each of the epochs. And then at the end of the third one, everyone's going to total up their points, and whoever has the most points is the winner. Now you can see here that there's a ton of components on the table. And this is one of those times where I really wish this was a board game rather than a card game. Because having all these out here, and I've just noticed that I probably have this upside down. I should have the good cards underneath it here. But having all this stuff out here is really kind of blurry to me. To be able to see all these things, you can look in the book and see what the different actions mean here, but there's just a lot of information on the cards, and the artwork itself is fine, but I found it just was confusing to look at the board, and you're constantly looking at all these different symbols and everything. And with all this setup involved, with stuff splayed across the board, it just seemed like it would have been better just to have a board and have this on the board and this on the board and this on the board. You can still use the cards and stuff. For me, that would have been aesthetically better. Sure, it would have required a slightly bigger box and maybe made the price of the game go up slightly, but I think in this case, I would have preferred it that way. That being said, the card quality is really well done. Yes, there's a lot of symbology on the cards. The artwork is, well, it's your typical trading in the Mediterranean artwork, whatever. But the game looks okay. It's not the kind of game that people were stopping by our table and going, ooh, what's that? But it's suitable. And like I said, the card quality is really well done. The rule book itself was also very nicely done and very easy to read. And they do have what all the different achievement tiles and for the bonus points at the end of the game, what they do. All right, before we start, I just want to clarify, I do like the game. All right, but before we get into there's a few things that I'm not so fond of with this game. But the biggest one is it just didn't visually, I found the visual, trying to look at what goods the cards were and the money on the cards and the money on the ships and the special abilities, I found that distracting. The gameplay itself is not that complicated, but I could never remember what the action symbols on the cards meant. Like, what does this one do? Oh, yeah, that's the one that lets me go to the trade market and stuff. I just found it to be distracting, and like I said, I think a nice, clean visual board would have helped. It felt like the graphic design, it's not as bad, but it almost felt like it was a little bit of, it put functions so high that I actually struggled with a little bit. Now, that out of the way, the theme doesn't do anything for me either. Oh yay, we're trading again, whoopee-doo. But the gameplay itself is very intriguing. The idea of playing a card from your hand as an action, and you have all these different actions, and then you can use trade goods as actions, is a pretty interesting one. You will find that there's not a ton of interaction with other players, but you will sit there and say, man, I sure hope they don't use that ability that shifts all the ships, because that would really mess me over, because I want that very specific ship. You will find also that you want to go to a spot, but you don't want to pay the extra cards to go to that spot, because you just don't want to. You want to use this card for something else. And I'll sit there going, I need to use these trade cards to buy another guild seat. And if I have to waste one because I'm going to go to an action where this person is, or they went to this action and took the guild action and they moved it now, and I was going to go there because I wanted to take a guild action, and the action that the guild action's on is no longer the action that I really want to take. So there is some interaction in that regard. But for the most part, you are all attempting to do different things. You're attempting to pull discs off your board, put discs in the guild seat, and or the bonus areas. The other detraction that I have from the game, other than the graphic design, is I felt like there wasn't a ton of things to do in various strategies, right? Like I would sit there and go, okay, I'm going to go get ships, use those ships, get some goods, go out, get more ships, get some goods. Or I'm going to go fight ships, which is a little random, right? But it could be a lot easier than getting goods to do ships. And I like that. And there's bonus tiles and guild seats, but it did feel like there was like, ooh, what kind of strategy did you pull off? What did you do? You just want to get your multipliers up. Get as many ships as you can, get as many guilds as you can, so that you have that nice multiplier at the end of the game. And the other bonus tiles, sure, that's a lot of points and things, and you want to get those also. But getting that multiplier up as high as you can, I have 7 ships and 4 guild seats, that's 28 points. So that's kind of your whole focus. So I don't know that there's a lot of divergent strategies in the game. I'm sure people who are really good at it will say more. This feels like this is the kind of game that people who like really heavy Euros, they'll say, this is a filler. It's not, okay? It's not. It's a full-blown game. But I can see this feeling like a filler to those sorts of people. For me, this is a upper medium weight game, right? It's not to me, it's to most people, that's the way it's going to be. I just don't think that it's going to attract people into the game. They'll look at Carthago, all right, whatever, next. That's a lot of negative sounding stuff, so let's get positive here. I do think the game offers some intriguing choices. I really like capturing a ship and then flipping cards to see what goods you get. That's a cool concept that's been used in other games, but I like that concept. I like getting goods and then using those goods to clear and deciding if you want to attack, because the attacking is a little bit riskier, right? But you can potentially do really well with it. There's a little bit of a race to see who can get the cheaper guild seats first, and there's not change when you discard money, right? So sometimes you're trying to get the exact coinage that you need to do different actions. And then once you start getting ships, you have some cool bonuses that you can use those ships for. All in all, it's an interesting, fun little game. It's bigger than it looks, I guess would be the thing, but it's smaller than it feels. All right, so I'm all over the place on this one, but in the end, I do enjoy playing it. It is an interesting game. I think it's forgettable in the long run, as in like in a year or two, no one will be talking about it. But if you like this whole trading type thing and you want to see cards played and use rondel and all these different things, then there definitely is a lot to look at in this game. Hopefully my review, my rambling all over the place review here, will help you decide if it's for you or not. For me, I liked it. Dice Tower Judgment, approved!